Well, there's a cheerful sight. That's all. Only 10 degrees. Feels like more like 45. Inside the exclusion zone. Ooh, how are you, big boy? Hi, big boy. And, huh? How you doing there, big guy? These cattle, like others before them, will be sold to the Japanese school system, and their meat will be eaten by thousands of school children across Japan. Hey guys. I took radiation readings from their noses and mouths, incredibly high readings of 0.48 microsieverts, completely unsafe, and it's amazing that they're still alive. Yeah, very curious. Happy to see some people, huh? Happy to see somebody, huh? Yeah? The Fukushima nuclear plants are out that way. We can see the power lines out of the Fukushima nuclear plants. Okay, we're getting pretty strong readings, 48, 56. 56 here, you know, it's pretty high. A year of that and you're dead. If you stay up here for a year, you're a goner. Okay, just dropped down to 49. The wind blows back and forth. So as you can see on these mountain passes, there's a pretty strong current. And down below are bags of low-level radiation that they've had to pick off from the sides of the road so that the safety officials can get to the town without being microwaved. Hey, that guy's walking on water. That hasn't been done in 2,000 years. Wait a minute, that's not water. The ripples on the surface were made in the cement and is painted blue to make it look like a reservoir. This is actually a secret high-level nuclear dump. But then he spotted me and he took out his mobile phone and made a call, and suddenly a security team was driving up the road and they got out and started chasing me. So I had to get out of there and get up to the mountain as fast as I could to hide in the woods. Earlier I had been warned by local villagers that I had to be very, very careful riding my bicycle up in the mountains, because many villagers have reported that they've been stopped, detained, questioned, and told never to come back up here because there are many, many secret sites up here. Now, months later, many of the security barriers are down, so we have a chance to get up into those mountains again. This is the Abukuma Plateau behind the Fukushima plants. This is Kido Dam, a beautiful lake, but there are secrets hidden here. On the downstream sites, there are no water pipes for the villages and no electrical power lines, so there has to be a structure inside this dam under this road. We thought there'd be nobody up here, but we're being watched. Then, two other security teams. We got to get out of here. This video is in many ways a homage to the bicycle, because the bicycle is the safest way to get around. Ironically, in Fukushima, you're exposed to rain, wind, and all that, but it doesn't have an electronic device that the secret police, the nuclear police, which is not the police force, the regular police, not the military, is this very amorphous security force that no one knows anything about up there around Fukushima. If you drive a car or ride a motorcycle, they detect you right away. The police, if at a road barrier, don't even look up. You know, they're looking at a TV or something. But if your car is coming from the outside, they'll get an alarm and they know it's someone from the outside to stop. So when you came, I thought, wow, we're, you know, several years into Fukushima. The security barriers are down. They're moving up north. We'll be okay. So after riding around on bicycles so many times, we went with a car. But were we surprised? We're up in the middle of nowhere, pretty far away from the nuclear plant, up a mountain road on the dam, and suddenly we were being chased.
Yeah, the secret police, right? That was actually crazy because, yeah, I thought it was, I don't know, car workers or whatever, but actually, yeah, they stop right at the corner and stop there and watch us.
Yeah, it was an emergency vehicle, like a safety vehicle with white. It wasn't a police vehicle. They chased us around and stopped and watched. And then they somehow called two other teams, these fellows in green uniforms. They're the dam workers. They rushed up there. They were just driving like crazy. Remember that? You hear the tires screeching. And they rushed to the doors of the two towers, unlocked them, and rushed in to see if we had been inside, if we broke in.
Yeah, I remember.
They were alarmed. And then this other team was there very menacingly watching us, and they were starting to come up to us, and we had to get out. Remember that?
Yeah.
How did you feel? You were holding the camera.
Well, I felt protected by you, you know, but I shouldn't, right?
No, and I did not feel protected by your camera. In fact, there was sort of a standoff. You could see these guys watching us. They did not know what to do, right? Because I think because you're French, they realize if they arrest you, they have to explain themselves why they arrest you at supposed civilian site.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
How could they do that?
There was supposed to be nothing there, right? Just a dam. I mean, you know.
And we could say, you arrested us because you're doing some secret things there.
Yeah.
And that's why you arrested us there. We just went to take pictures, but security came to get us.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is going, you can see, you know, this movie going through their minds. And in that brief time of doubt, we got out.
Yeah.
This Keto Dam, where we were, you see it's a huge dam. It's 100 meters long, 2 lanes wide on top, and something going on because we could tell from the towers. Those guys went in and went down to search for it, to search if we had put something or someone went down there. So this is a huge underground structure in this site. And I'm thinking in my mind, what could this be? What could this be? What comes close to this? And it's Norsk Hydro. This is a very famous tritium separation plant during World War II by Nazi Germany, when Nazis occupied Norway. And we see here, no power lines, no pipes coming out of that plant. You see water coming down for the turbines. So very similar to the dam, okay? Very similar to the dam. And a very long, wide, narrow building. And you see here a tritium refinement process. They refine it with electrolysis, with electrodes. Then you'll go to the next tank, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until they have pure tritium. And tritium is heavy water. It's used to trigger a hydrogen bomb, a plutonium bomb.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that dam has to be a tritium plant.
Wow.
There's no other explanation. I've walked this road before where it's well past 50. It's a half a millisievert basically, and that's pretty serious. You know, pretty serious. You know, it's very streaming radiation, and on wet days it's really bad, especially when the water's coming off Pacific trenches out there. So flow out of Fukushima 1, and radiation would loop back. Locals have told me that there's been nuclear work going on here for decades, contaminating the whole town around it with radioactivity. Right after the Fukushima disaster is that there were thousands of workers here with lots of gigantic cranes digging up the earth all inside this plant. There was massive security. You couldn't get close to it, but I managed to talk to some of the workers there who said it's very radioactive there, unsafe, they don't want to continue, but they had to work there to support their kids and wives. There were so many new workers, thousands of them, that they opened a pachinko parlor to entertain them when they weren't working. Well, good to see Japanese culture alive and well. But the locals don't have the money to throw away on gambling. When I talked to some of the locals who were fishing that day, some of them told me that there was a huge amount of radioactive waste piled up on the road above this port. And then one day, it all disappeared. My radiation readings in this area led straight to the port and then disappeared. It meant all that waste was taken out to sea and dumped. These are the famous fugu, the blowfish that the Japanese eat. Very highly poisonous ones. But these are so small you can't eat them, because the skin, the poison would kill you. For many years after the Fukushima disaster, I was the only researcher journalist to go into the Iwaki area south of the plant. This is a center for the nuclear industry. Hitachi, Toshiba, GE, the Department of Energy, people were there. You could see them walking around the street. They wouldn't talk to you, but you see them walking around. Now, what was really odd is at the time when Fukushima #1 only had maybe 200-300 workers there, there were like at least 2,000 or more working at this place, digging like crazy, day and night. You see them at nighttime with lights on, huge cranes, a dozen gigantic cranes there, digging, and every day, hundreds of trucks coming out with high-level waste. I turn on my dosimeter, truck go by, and it'll go down again. Massive amounts of radiation coming out of this coal-fired plant. And I'm wondering what's going on. Now, this is a gentleman whose house was smashed by the earthquake of 3/11. He was coming back to check on his home that day, his possessions that were still there. And he told me, this isn't this isn't a conventional plant. There's been nuclear work going on here for decades. This whole area has been radioactive for decades. I said, what's going on?
So is it happening underground or something?
Well, we'll see here, yeah. This, you see, is here on the middle, right? You see, that's the top of a tunnel that goes into a huge pit there. There's another vast underground nuclear plant there. What they did is they put a new roof on that plant. It was a huge hole in the ground. Then those black things, those little black dots, are each 3-ton radiation waste bags. Why do they put them out like that? And you see that yellow object there on the bottom there? Mm-hmm. That's a gigantic crane lowering these bags are so heavy. What they're doing is they cover all of the former nuclear weapon site with these bags. That way satellites or planes are flying over will say, oh, that's just radioactive waste. They won't detect the fact that that was a radioactive lab.
Wow.
There's a massive, this is a literal cover-up. So here's some of my measurements. 0.84 in a rice field next to a coal-fired plant. That's not possible.
Wow. No.
Yeah. Trucks coming out like this, that's the gate of the plant, going through these tunnels. You see the tunnels are cracked by the earthquake. Not safe, but hundreds of trucks rattling through there every day. That's Highway 6. Then I find a smaller road by the ocean going south. And I measure 1.12, astounding level. And I asked the local fishermen, you were there at the time, what happened above there? And above the port, the fishing port. They said massive amounts of high-level waste were stored here. We were told to get away, not go near the port.
Wow.
And I said, well, we check on it, every day, see what they're going to do with it. Then one morning, it was gone. Then I'm checking south of there. I'm checking in every direction. Obviously, the highly radioactive material, we're talking about war-grade plutonium levels of material, ended in the port. And you see a fishing net there on the right, 1.10. All the water there is heavily contaminated. So what they must have done is they must have loaded that waste onto barges, take them out the Pacific, and then sank them.
Wow. Yeah. In the Pacific.
Yeah. So that accounts for why the Fukushima radiation is so seriously high on the North American coast and now all around the Pacific, cycling back, even back to the Philippines, Vietnam. The whole area is stirred up. This is like, hundreds of nuclear warheads being dumped in the ocean, and they're hot. They melted down. Insane what they're doing, and we caught them there at the port.
Wow.
That is the mouth of the port. And one of the aspects of secrecy is, you see the port is at the top of the picture there. Mm-hmm. Right below there, south, you were there. I showed you this whole destroyed area. Maybe 500-600 houses destroyed by the tsunami. Iwaki City measured not one single death. And then I asked the neighbors there, you see on the other side of the road, there's some places. I asked the neighbors, what happened there? He said, all the houses got washed to sea. I said, how many people died? He says, I said, 1,000? 2,000? More. Are there any survivors? Some people must have, survived it, ran away, or floated out of there, could swim better. We've never seen them again.
So what? Everybody died?
No, the point is, most of them died, but the survivors were moved out by the government. They disappeared. Because these people, you see, they're on the road. They walk around every day. They're walking by the fishing port.
Yeah.
They could see what was going on there for years. And finally, they probably spotted the ships, the barges. These are people who could see the barges going out to the Pacific at night.
At night.
Yeah. These were witnesses. So whoever was left, whoever survived, was gone, disappeared. Wow. We had to take a bypass northward around the Fukushima plants to arrive at this port where a lot of fishing boats have been stored because they're radioactive. It doesn't look like they'll ever come into service again. I met a fellow here who lives somewhat inland and uphill who told me that this plant was completely wiped out. I asked him some questions about it. He told me the plant was rebuilt very quickly. When I asked him, does it provide power to Soma City up north? He says, no, it's never provided power to a civilian center. He told me that all the power from this coal-fired plant goes only to the Fukushima nuclear plant. And I thought that was really strange that a 2,000 megawatt power plant would supply power to a nuclear plant. That made no sense at all. Tohoku Electric Power. This is not Tokyo Electric Power. This is for the northern part of Japan. They have a power plant. And as you recall, we didn't get his video because that would have scared him off. One of the workers who was cutting grass came over and talked with me. He lived not far away and said, this is a huge plant. It was destroyed in the tsunami. It was rapidly rebuilt. And I asked him, well, does it provide power to the city of Soma up in Tohoku? He says, this line doesn't go to Tohoku. It goes only to Fukushima, number 1. He says there's a lot of work going on here that outsiders don't know about.
Wow.
And I'm dumbstruck that I didn't know what it was when we were there. Later I did the research. This is a Google shot, satellite photo of the plant. Right along the shore you see a lot of digging. You see a lot of brown spots. What you see in the lower right hand corner, those little white dots are large trucks that carry coal. So this is a vast site. We see a road that goes along, and then you see this sort of path that goes down, a gravel path that goes down. Okay, 45 degrees, and then it zigzags back. And then you see 3 stories, at least 3 stories underground. You see on the right side a hidden chamber. This is an underground chamber, a vast industrial structure, huge, okay? Then you go down, and then about 7 to 8 stories below the ground, another even larger structure. What could it be right by the water in a coal burning plant? Obviously, this has got to be a nuclear weapons lab. And many activists got by tweets from nurses at Tohoku Medical University College, okay, was that inside the college in the morgue, there's 1,000 frozen bodies of workers, work uniforms, and soldiers.
Wow.
They have to be from this secret plant. When the tsunami hit, the place got flooded. There was a nuclear meltdown of high-level nuclear waste. These people were all killed. And finally, they dug them out. It was very cold then, so they dug them out and froze their bodies. Radioactivity has got released on the grand scale, has effects that no scientist at the lab could ever predict. And just a month after the meltdowns, I remember the whole sky was just tingling with pinks and yellows and purple colors. And this environmentalist walking with me, a woman who lives in Soma, she says, the sky, so strange. It's so scary. I'm so frightened. What can we do? What can we do? And later she admitted to me she had a big radiation burn on her neck. Cirrus cloud is the kind of thing you would see way high up in the upper atmosphere, but this is really down, coming up from below. You never see a cirrus cloud originating at ground level and rising in the sky. And the Fukushima plant's right there, the source of this thing. So this is defying everything we know about meteorology, cloud formations. You just don't see this stuff anywhere else in the world. The mountain, hidden from view from most of those who pass, holds a secret. Trains left us here on the platform in the countryside. Never mind a little rain in the morning. Let's hope it clears up for a little spin in the countryside. Rain may be radioactive and there's fallout, but let's hope it clears up a bit so we can see the mountains up there. Behind me in the distance is Mount Utsumine, the site of Japan's largest uranium mine ever. Well, the exposed face of the old mine there, further down the mountain, is used for trap shooting. You can hear a lot of gunfire right now, which prevents me from going up there and collecting a few samples. Well, I'm no Lance Armstrong, but and haven't ridden a bike since I was a kid, but made it to the top of this mountain. Well, near the top, and to the highest mine at least, which is right behind me here, covered with all these kuzu vines, real pest, and nothing's really grown back here. They didn't make any effort at reforestation, and it doesn't seem that the trees take too well to all the uranium and thorium content, as well as the other trace metals inside the rock. About 30 years ago, trucks that came barreling down the slope from the uranium mine up top would lose a lot of gravel along the way, and then a lot of it would accumulate here on this curve. What the government has reportedly mined here is a stuff called euxidite, which is a composite. It's basically a piece of silicon rock with calcium in it, sort of like a piece of cement nearly. And there are little pieces of yttrium and other rare earths, but also uranium and thorium. So it's a bumpy looking rock like that, okay? But also what I found here was something that completely went unreported by the geologists of Japan and foreign geologists who might have been up here. And this is this piece of granite, which is reads with twice the radioactive level as the euxidite. So we basically have here a more classic example of uranium ore, very streaky yellow stuff here on the black surface, very much like the uranium ore that comes out of the American Southwest. So this has got double the uranium content easily, and extracts a lot more easily. Crush the stone and you can extract the uranium from it. So basically the government wasn't telling really a whole lot of truth about what they were mining here and the quality of uranium that was coming out. And this was supposedly for the first Japanese nuclear reactor at Tokaimura, south of here. But obviously they were stockpiling a lot more uranium than they were reporting to any international authorities or to the Japanese political establishment itself. Well, the scant record indicates that the mine was opened soon after the passage of the Basic Atomic Law in 1954. But one of the older villagers that we met here by the shrine was very insistent that the mine was much older than that, and indicating that it was worked during the time of World War II, which would put it at a much earlier date, and would give lie to a lot of records that geologists have kept since then. Basically, this mine may have been part of a much earlier history of atomic development at a time when Japan's main concern was not atomic energy, but an atomic weapon, an A-bomb, built in concert, in cooperation with Nazi Germany. In follow-up to the visit to the mine, it turns out that the Utsumine operation was run by the government-owned Japan Nuclear Fuels Corporation. This company had a very strange code name also, which was Bund 1. Well, that code name is actually Bund ein, the German word for one. And what Bund means is an association, cooperation, or alliance, which means that Utsumine was actually run under a joint project run by both the German and Japanese governments. And this is back in the late 1930s and 40s when Germany was controlled by the Nazi Party. So we have here a program that was jointly run by the German Nazi government, the German military, and the Japanese militarist government. Country road, take me home to the place where I belong. Fukushima, Fukushima, well, she's gone. Now she's gone.